Luffy was born in Fuchsia Village to Monkey D. Dragon and an unknown woman. Dragon left Luffy in the care of his grandfather, Monkey D. Garp, who did many dangerous things to Luffy to make him stronger, like throwing him down a deep ravine, leaving him alone in the wild, and tying him to a balloon. Later, when Luffy was 6, Shanks and the Red Hair Pirates stationed themselves in Fuchsia Village. While they were there, their sniper, Yasopp, frequently told Luffy that he had a son his age named Usopp. Luffy wanted to join the Red Hair Pirates, and after they had been in the village for nearly a year, he stabbed himself under his left eye to prove he was tough enough to be a pirate. Luffy and the Red Hair Pirates then went to the party's bar, where Luffy continued to get Shanks to let him join them unsuccessfully. He found the Gomu Gomu no Mi in a chest and ate it with his meal, not knowing what it was. The Red Hair Pirates realized in shock that Luffy had eaten the devil fruit they took and revealed to Luffy that he would never be able to swim for the rest of his life. Later, the Red Hair Pirates prepared to depart Fuchsia Village for good, and Luffy decided that he would instead set sail on his own. Shanks teased him about being too weak, and Luffy declared that he would become the Pirate King and form a stronger crew than Shanks. In response, Shanks gave Luffy his straw hat, telling him to return it once he had become a great pirate. So one of the most frequently asked questions about Luffy is that if Luffy is the reincarnation of Joy Boy or not. Basically, in Luffy's battle against Kaido, Luffy is beaten badly and he's seemingly killed for some time, because even Momonosuke says that Luffy's voice has been completely erased. But soon, Zunisha announces that he can hear the drums of liberation once more and proclaims Joy Boy has returned. These drums happen to coincide with Luffy's heartbeat in his Gear 5 during his Devil Fruit awakening. Then we switch over to the Gorosei's perspective, where it's revealed that Luffy's Devil Fruit is not the Gomu Gomu no Mi, but is actually a mythical Zoan, the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika. The warrior who possesses Nika's power is said to grant the user's body unparalleled freedom. The user is only constrained by their own imagination. Furthermore, this description coincides with the themes of freedom woven throughout One Piece, as one of the Gorosei mentions that by putting smiles on the faces of those around him, the one who possesses the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika is the embodiment of the warrior of liberation. So all of this information comes together to reveal two very important aspects of One Piece's lore. Firstly, Luffy is not the reincarnation of Joy Boy, but rather it seems as if Joy Boy truly is just a title given to whoever holds the power to liberate the world. Secondly, the Joy Boy of the past did indeed have the powers of the Hito Hito no Mi model Nika, because Zunisha, who himself is a centuries-old being, associates the awakening of this devil fruit with his long-lost comrade Joy Boy's return. Some fans once worried that Luffy would turn out to be the reincarnation of Joy Boy, but that did not happen at all, because the use of the ancient Joy Boy's existence only serves to amplify the themes of inherited will, as over 900 years later, his will is still being carried on through Luffy and the Hito Hito no Mi itself. In its final saga, One Piece will likely reveal even more about the ancient Joy Boy's past and his connection to the world government, who has been hunting this devil fruit for centuries. A very important thing about Luffy that many fans forget is that just like Goldie Roger, Luffy might be dying very soon. But unlike Roger, who died from a disease, Luffy is probably going to die because of his devil fruit powers. Basically, using second gear has definitely shortened Luffy's lifespan. The technique involved him pumping blood through his body at an accelerated rate in order to give himself a boost in speed and power. World Government agent Rob Lucci was quick to point out the issue with this technique, and he explained that pumping blood through the heart and the rest of one's circulatory system like this was a good way to destroy it. Even as a rubber man, Luffy was undoubtedly creating lasting damage to himself from within. What Lucci was describing about Luffy is actually a real-life phenomenon. When the heart becomes enlarged due to high blood pressure, it can lead to all sorts of fatal conditions like cardiomyopathy and cardiac hypertrophy, which can ultimately result in heart failure. And by forcing blood through his body, Luffy was inadvertently stretching out his heart muscles and making it more difficult to pump blood normally. Gear Second's life-shortening side effect is made worse by how often Luffy relies on the technique. If he used it occasionally for short brawls, then this rubber body should be able to keep up with the strain. However, Luffy used second gear a lot, and the longer he fights and the more often he uses it, the more likely he is to pave the road for heart problems later in life. It is also implied that Luffy's third and fourth gears also put a similar tax on his life, though this isn't explicitly stated by anyone in the series. But if Luffy's other gears also decrease his life expectancy, then Luffy will definitely die at a young age like Gold D. Roger. Not only this, another lifespan costing experience took place while Luffy was in Impel Down. So, in order to save the Straw Hat Pirate from the Warden Magellan's venom, Ivankov used her Devil Fruit powers to alter the hormones in the boy's body to strengthen his immune system. The process was excruciating, lasted for hours, and ultimately took approximately 10 years off from Luffy's life expectancy. He only survived the ordeal because of his indomitable will to live. Otherwise, he could have died at that exact moment. So before we move on, let me tell you some interesting things about Luffy's Gear 5 and Hito Hito no Mi Model Nika, which is Luffy's Devil Fruit. The awakening of Luffy's Hito Hito no Mi grants the user freedom to do anything he can imagine and allows him to fight in any way they please. It is for this reason that the user is said to become the warrior of liberation and bring joy and freedom to those around them. And this fruit's power is also described as the most ridiculous power in the world. In this state, Luffy's heartbeat takes on a musical rhythm, which has been described by Zunisha as the drums of liberation. His hair and clothes turn white. His eyes glow with red ring-like pupils, and white clouds float around his neck, similar to the clouds of steam that accompany him in Gear 4. As an awakened Zoan, Luffy has gotten far greater strength, speed, and durability than those with an unawakened Zoan powers. Aligning with the mythical Zoan nature of this form, Luffy's already rubbery body gains freedom and flexibility that surpasses what he would receive from his previous forms, to the point that it is now even cartoonishly malleable. An example of this is when he took a hit to the head from Kaido's Hasaikai, only for his head to warp and wrap around the weapon and its spikes. Or when Kaido tried to smash him into the ground, his body was simply squished instead and later returned to its original shape. Luffy is able to utilize both the limb inflation of Gear 3 and the muscle inflation of Gear 4 without the need to pump air into his body first, allowing him to greatly increase his own strength. This allows him to increase his arm to such enormous size that he can grab Kaido's transformed body and yank him up out of the Skull Dome. And with his enlarged limbs and muscles, Luffy easily manhandled Kaido despite his enormous size. Luffy's rubbery nature can also be extended into the environment around him, as seen when Luffy stretched a section of roof and used it to bounce Kaido's bolo breath back at him. Interestingly, the altered terrain was neither burnt nor melted by the boro breath, even though the attack was shown to be scorching hot and had enough explosive power to destroy a whole castle and the mountaintop. And this proves that Luffy's powers can even change the molecular properties of inorganic items when they are in contact with him. So, Luffy can affect his surroundings to the point where he can make surfaces such as the ground beneath him rubbery to cushion himself from powerful blows and even bounce off and launch himself at enemies from them. This power also seems to be able to affect organic materials as well, as shown when Kaido literally swallowed Luffy whole and then proceeded to have his body expanded and inflated along with Luffy. This, coupled with Luffy's own transformed state, has been pointed out by Kaido to be very unusual due to featuring elements of both paramecia and zone awakenings. Luffy has even demonstrated that he is able to apply this effect on intangible matter such as lightning. Aside from his rubber-related abilities, Gear 5 also allows Luffy the curious ability to materialize objects such as goggles from his flaming hair. But we don't know the true extent of this ability, because so far we have seen him only materializing sunglasses. However, I personally believe that this ability can turn out to be one of the greatest weapons of Luffy in the future. So despite the strength of Gear 5, this form consumes plenty of energy to maintain and use. Luffy can visibly age once he transforms back to normal and experience an extensive amount of exhaustion and fatigue. But Luffy can instantly transform back by seemingly forcing his heart to beat in the rhythm of the drums of liberation. Also, unlike paramecia awakenings, Zoan awakenings like Gear 5 carries the inherent risk of the innate nature of the animal that the devil fruit is derived from. Basically, Luffy can sometimes lose control over himself in his Gear 5 form, and because the mythical Zoan devil fruit are said to have a will of their own, it is possible that the sun god Nika may end up consuming Luffy's mind. Luffy is also one of the very few people who is able to hear the voice of all things. It has been implied at some moments that Luffy has the ability to hear the voice of all things. For example, the Sea Kings on Fishman Island sensed that he had picked up their voices, just like Goldie Roger once did. Luffy was also one of only 2 people along with Kozuki Momonosuke to be able to hear the voice of the giant elephant Zunisha, although he was overwhelmed by Zunisha's voice and unable to communicate with him, unlike Momonosuke. Another ability of Luffy that we have seen throughout the series is his ability to make allies with anyone. Basically, Luffy possesses a notable ability to recruit allies to his side everywhere he goes, which Dracule Mihawk describes as the most dangerous ability in the world. And now that we think about it, it's possible that Luffy got this ability because of his devil fruit. Because it is said that Sun God Nika brings happiness and smiles to the faces of people wherever he goes. So it is possible that his devil fruit might have some kind of dormant ability that makes people naturally trust him and follow him. Because of this ability, Luffy is capable of making friends rather quickly, and people typically have to do little for Luffy to consider them as a friend, such as Rebecca, who earned Luffy's friendship by buying him food. Although Luffy does not see himself a hero, but he will do anything to help his friends, which can earn him the respect of people around him. For example, as seen with the Whitebeard pirates being impressed with his desire to save Ace on Marineford. Also, when Jinbei met Luffy, he initially had no intention of building a relationship with him and only wanted to accompany him through Impel Down and Marineford to appease Ace's wishes. However, after getting to know Luffy, Jinbei quickly developed a deep respect for him and risked his life to get Luffy out of Marineford safely. On Dressrosa, Luffy carried enough favor that the allies he made went far beyond Dressrosa. 7 of the groups who fought with him pledged to serve him whenever he needs them, forming the massive Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Even people like Cavendish and Don Shinjao, who once wished to kill him, declared their servitude. Another question that I personally had in mind is that how much Luffy can stretch, and I'm sure many of you guys probably want to know the answer as well. We simply don't know how much he can stretch because it was never officially revealed. But I found a guy on Reddit who had done some crazy calculations about Luffy's stretching abilities 3 years ago. Basically, Oda once stated that Luffy can stretch about 72 Gomu Gomus. Now, we all wondered what Gomu Gomu means in meters. Yet, when asked, Oda instead just gave as an entire unit system based off of several kinds of Gomu Gomus. So this guy managed to crack it down. Though there isn't a 100% accurate answer, so we'll measure it in a range of lowest to highest estimation. As we can see here, 705 poison Gomu Gomus mean 7050 Gomu Gomus, but we now know that it's also considered cosmic distance. Now, the term cosmic distance in itself is very vague, so we'll chop it into low estimation and high estimation. Lowest among super low estimation, the very smallest distance that may apply to cosmic stuff is most likely Earth's radius. So, here it's 6,371 kilometers, which means 1 Gomu Gomu equals 0.9 kilometers. Average estimation? So for this, we'll go with the distance between the Earth and the celestial body closest to us, the Moon. This is about 384,400 kilometers, which means 1 Gomu Gomu equals 54.5 kilometers. Now, we don't know how much Luffy can stretch now, but it shouldn't be improved by that much because he can't really alter his fundamental body properties that much. But since Luffy was already trying to go for 100 Gomu Gomus, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he can finally reach that distance. So, the lowest estimate of Luffy's stretching distance is 90 kilometers, and the highest estimate of Luffy's stretching distance is 5,452 kilometers. And the conclusion is that Luffy might just be able to reach Raftel by stretching alone. I know this calculation sounds weird, even crazy, but I liked this Reddit post. So yeah, that's all about Luffy's biology, and thanks for watching.